All right, guys, welcome. Welcome back. Jukes Lounge. We have an extremely special guest on today. We're doing an extremely this is a special episode, guys. This is one of my biggest episodes yet, so I'm really excited to do this one. I have been recovering from a bit of an illness. Got a bit of food poisoning the other day, so unfortunately, I did miss yesterday's stream, which was meant to be with Dude. We are going to book that one, so I think we're still discussing it, but we should get a day for you guys soon, and then uppers and orders from there. So yeah, I do apologize if there's any issues with the stream or if I might be a little bit less energetic, but I'll try my best. And yeah, without further ado, this is the Torus walkthrough, and I'm joined by none other than the man, the myth, and the legend, guys. CRYPTOGRFX. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing awesome. I'm really looking forward. Thank you for the intro. That's always nice. I appreciate that, and I'm really looking forward to this. This is gonna be a lot of fun. Great. It's great to meet you and be on your stream for the first time.
Yeah, this is gonna be awesome, bro. Like I said to you, before we went live, like I've been watching CryptoGraphics from really the time it started, right? I remember the PulseX days, PulseX sacrifice days, and your videos breaking down buy and burn of those things. I was like, oh my god,
Appreciate it, man. Those were fun times. It was cool that you were there for that. Those were fun times.
Yeah, man. And that was crazy that those kind of tokenomics that we loved in PulseX, you're now building something which has aggressive functions, aggressive buy and burn functions and stuff like that. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, inspired by all the stuff we've been talking about for years now. So this is gonna be a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, man. This is it. All right. So yeah. So if you guys watch my stuff, you know that I have the diagrams. So we're gonna get into that quickly. And yeah, let me just bring up for you guys. I mean, we've got already people coming in, so I think we'll just start, and people will come in as or when they choose.
Let's do it.
Sweet, should be coming up now. Yeah, we can see this.
Oh yeah,
guys, Torus is a really interesting protocol. It's like, one of the reasons why I love doing these diagrams is because I can see everything, like I can draw everything out for you. So Torus has some, interesting things, and it's another approach to, all of these kind of. It feels like a new approach to mining, like a new approach to these mining protocols we're seeing. It has it's very unique. So here we are, guys. The Torus walkthrough. We have obviously Jukes the Great, CryptoGraphics. One question I would like to ask actually before we get onto this is, obviously you've been in crypto for a long time. You were there, I believe, in the Hex days and in Pulse Chain, PulseX, all these different protocols. What was the main reason you chose to build on Titan X first? Like, what was the one biggest thing that kind of motivated you to build on Titan X?
Yeah, well, there was many things really. Bullish hat formation had to happen for this one always, but the main reason was like, I mean, you want to go where you're welcome. You're welcome to build, and I feel like with Pulse Chain, this isn't saying anything necessarily bad about Pulse Chain, but Titan X is obviously far more welcoming for building. And Pulse Chain, the Hex, PulseX, Hedron, Icosa, and many more, they inspired the Torus, but the proper soil right now for me starting to build is with Titan X, because I can put this out there here. I can establish credibility. I can establish, how great Torus really is. And then for possible second protocol, maybe third protocol, who knows what happens after this, right? But, maybe then once you prove yourself and you've proved that merit essentially, then you can go from there to a community that would be a little bit harder to maybe convince that this is a good thing. So, yeah. And I mean, Titan X, I do really believe is DeFi 3.0, and it cracks so many codes that hadn't been cracked before. So to say it was just because of it's the right community, that's not completely the story. I mean, Titan X really changed the game on so many levels. Fair launch, never been done before. The hyper deflationary fair launch, never been done before. The rapid expansion and growth of the community and the builder community is unlike anything anyone's ever done before. And so what better way to contribute to a product or an ecosystem that really reignited my fire for and my desire to like be in crypto than to build here.
Definitely, man. I think definitely with the the meritocracy aspect of the Titan X ecosystem. It's like we want builders and we just want as many as we can get. And then look, at the end of the day, if you build something great and you do the whole process right, you market it correctly and do all, everything correctly, the reward you can make is substantial. And just that reward alone is going to bring people in to build and stuff. And I definitely resonate with you on Titan X when it was launched. There was almost like this light bulb moment, I think, for a lot of people with the tokenomic game that it brings. And we're seeing so many more protocols being built on this ecosystem that are innovating and building, bringing new things, right? So I put a tweet out about this the other day, and I said that studying and understanding the Titan X ecosystem tokens is like getting a PhD in tokenomics. You know what I mean? Like you have 100%. To understand everything. Like I feel like myself, like just learning about all these protocols being built, it's really stepped up my game. So yeah, that's good to see. Cool. Let's just get into this. So what I do is I kind of break down like the white paper and stuff. And I put it into diagrams. So, looking at the overview here, basically these are just like the key points, which are like, about this protocol. So it's a fair launch. So it follows like that same ethos that everything on Titan X has. It has this really interesting aspect with creating and staking. So we'll get into that. And then also with either creating or staking, you can also earn, and you earn at the same time for both. So when you create or stake, you also earn. And then why create or stake? To make everything really simple for you. I believe CRYPTOGRFX himself has said this. The UI should be very simple, and basically what the ROI is on whichever one has a high ROI, that's just logically what people are going to do, right? So if creating has a negative ROI, then it makes sense to stake. I think that's why you'll choose to do them. I'm sure we'll talk about that at length. And yeah, man, was there anything you wanted to say about these points?
No, I mean, in terms of especially the user experience, like, of course, there's where the supply comes from and how all these different aspects work. But really, in terms of the user experience, yeah, this is going to be front and center for what people are going to want. And I mean, the only other thing I would add here is that Torus is the highest, has the highest buy pressure that its system gives to its own token of any perpetually operating system within the Titan X ecosystem.
Wow.
There are tokens that have a higher buy and burn, but they're temporary because they have a mint phase or an initial auction phase, and then that decreases. Versus Torus is perpetual in that sense, and so it has a different level of buy pressure that is sustainable over time.
That's what's really cool. I saw you put out like the phases with phase 1 and phase 2 of the mid phase, and you're like. When I was reading the white paper, it says something like, the first phase, it's going to be aggressive on building the LPs and stuff. And I looked at the buy and burn amount, and it's still a big amount. It's still a big amount. I was like, this is, it's not like it's just going to be only building LP and no buy. Like the buy and burn is aggressive, in my opinion. Even from day one, like it's got a good percentage, and we'll get to that later. But with the two phases, it's like phase 1 still has a lot of buy and burn. Like it's pretty cool to see.
Oh yeah. It's being able to utilize X28, which of course we can talk about more because it's one of the big features of the system, and how it's able to use or achieve that high buy pressure is through X28. So, I mean, really fortunate that it came out, or Jake released it when he did, because prior Torus was not able to do that, and X28 allowed that to be an option.
Wow. Yeah, I think X28, it gave builders a lot more room to use their Titan X in interesting ways, because I feel like before a lot of people were staking Titan X, or they're trying to lock Titan X up in a way so they could contribute to the deflation. But now you can send this to X28 and get rid of 50% of the Titan X, and then you also have something with basically the same economic value, right? So you don't lose economic energy, but you still burn Titan X. And then you can run that into your protocol. It's awesome.
It really is. It was like the secret sauce that I wasn't expecting to come out.
Yeah, man. I'm so bullish on X28 and all of the future that we have with it, because the future of Titan X in some ways it is X28.
Mm.
You know, like it's going to be omni-chain Titan X. So can you imagine a future where we have protocols on all these different chains? Like X28 is going to be the place that it's going to be the thing people are holding. So
Oh yeah,
cool. Right, so let's get into the start. So yeah, so basically with Torus, guys, did I do an easier diagram here? Okay, so with Torus, you can basically either choose to create Torus or you can choose to stake Torus. So those are the two main kind of aspects that you gain from a user perspective. That's what you're going to be either doing. You're either going to be creating Torus or staking Torus. So the first thing we're going to look over is basically creating Torus. And this was something that I feel like it's got elements of, I know like Jake was saying elements of like Bitcoin and stuff. I feel like it's like you're mining Torus, but then there's also this almost native staking element, like native Torus staking element that's like inbuilt into the mining. So for those who are familiar with Hyper, familiar with Hydra, when you create Torus, it's has a very similar process to that. So you have a power range. So the two variables you're going to choose as a user is the power and the time. Okay, so and those two variables determine basically how much Torus you get. So it's very similar in that respect to, well, that's going to determine your base, right? Because then this is the earning aspect. So yeah, that would determine just the amount of Torus you're creating. So this is because it's fair launch, like it's user created supply, right? So you have to create the supply. But then there's also this earning bit here, and essentially, I believe the protocol calculate your shares based off these two variables. The power.
It's actually really, really simple.
Okay.
The protocol generates the shares based on the amount of tokens you create or stake multiplied by the days you've staked squared.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So it just looks at the tokens on either side, whether it's stake or create, multiply it by basically, let's say it's max power. So it'd be 1,000, or let's say it's 100 power on day one. You have 1,000 tokens times 88 times 88. That's it. And you end up with 7,744,000 shares for 100 power creation on day one.
For 100 power creation. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that gets you the shares in the earn pool.
Exactly.
And then,
yes.
Yeah. Was there anything to say about, like the design of this? I mean, how come you went for 88 days and the range and with the range of the power going up to 10,000?
Yeah, well, I mean, there was a lot of that went into it. I mean, originally this protocol had 285 day length, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was long, and basically this is a theme that is going to be throughout Torus. Is my original ideas were shaped by the conversations, the reactions, the body language of everyone that I ran this by. So when I was running this protocol by friends and people that I trust, I started to notice when I said 280 or 85 days, they were like, okay. I started to notice that there was this hesitancy. Mm-hmm. And I also started to think about, because I was like, I don't really want to do the short ones necessarily. I wanted it to be something where people they'll have to delay gratification. And then I stopped and thought about it. And I was like, well, if you shorten the length that people have to serve, you actually increase the ability of the system to have economic energy re-input into it all the time. And so it was like a light bulb went off, and I saw, you are making people want to participate because we're in the middle of a bull right now. And if people see 285 days, it's like, I don't know if I want to commit to that, man.
Mm-hmm.
So it's it's a huge ask. And also by getting rid of that, there's more participation likely. You're able to build the buy and burn, the buy and build. And you're able to actually compound faster from the user perspective and potentially earn a higher ROI in a shorter period of time.
Wow. Yeah, because when I think about it, right, I mean, when Jake launched Hyper, he did it 88 days because he said this is going to be a compounding protocol. And I feel like with Titan X, everyone who was around at the start, they can say this, like the compounding game was crazy. And I feel like it opened a lot of people's eyes to how crazy these compounding games can get. So yeah, I see that as a good reason to do the 88 days, because if people recompound in, then they're likely gonna basically drag in more economic energy. you know, because if they're making more, if they made a good ROI, they didn't put it back in, then you just get this like insane recycling of economic energy, but it feels like it's bringing in more, you know.
Exactly, and that's the whole point of Torus. Is like, if you think about a Torus field, where it just keeps going through, around and around and around and around from a 360-degree angle. It's kind of like an infinity loop, and that's kind of like what Torus is. It's meant to just go around and around and around and around and around and build in its energetic potential over time.
Wow, that's so cool, because when I was thinking about this, I was literally thinking, you know, these compounding protocols, they're almost like economic wormholes, you know, in the sense that they just pull in so much economic energy, more than the creators even expected. You know, like we even saw with Element 280, right? When that launched, the compounding game with the NFTs started going crazy, and you know, that protocol took in 17 odd trillion Titan X. Like, it's
so
crazy.
badass.
It's
That's
insane.
so awesome.
It's insane. So yeah, that's so cool to hear that from you. So was that something you factored into basically the whole concept of Torus? Is that why you gave it that name?
It's funny. A lot of these things kind of happened, and I later would realize what they were implying, where I had actually originally designed a whole ecosystem that started with Torus, which was and this, I wasn't necessarily planning on launching this, but I was trying to build an ecosystem in my head. And I originally chose the name Torus because the Torus field is to do with energy and magnetism, bioelectric magnetism, and which is, I'm deep in that stuff. I love spirituality and energy. I mean, I do energy. I'm in school for a certain modality of energy work. And so this is just very personal to me. And so I had a Torus is a Torus field, right? And I had this first protocol called Torus. I had a second one. I basically had a Dragon X called ESP, which is external staking protocol. I had Eros, Logos, and Soul protocol in there. Wow. So I had all these. Yeah. This is just basically like me, just like doing my thing. And I put that on the back burner, forgot about it. It was never going to happen. And through many names, like originally this thing was called Titanite, which is a type of gem that is kind of looks like kryptonite. And eventually I was like, they don't like the name. And then I remembered I had this Torus thing in my back pocket. And I was like, oh yeah, that's literally like my favorite thing I've come up with in terms of a name. I slapped it on here and I realized how it applied to everything. And I was like, wow, this is literally perfect.
Yeah, that it fits. It feels like it fits the name, like the way you described it. It feels like it fits actually what the protocol is. You know, it's like this huge kind of like magnetic field, right? Like a magnetic field is going to suck everything into it, and it's yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool. So with, just not to sidetrack too much, with the spirituality stuff, are you like into philosophy as well? I'm asking because I'm quite a philosophy guy.
I love psychology, philosophy, basically anything that is expansive in nature for your perception or awareness. I love going into that. I mean, yeah, and that's cool that you are as well. So I'm sure we could have a whole stream going off the deep end.
Oh, 100%. I'm big into like you may have heard of it. It's called Neoplatonic philosophy. It's basically
on the back of Plato.
Essentially, yeah. So if you think of Plato was a big figure, and then it kind of arose in I believe it was the Roman Empire. It's interesting actually because it arose around the same time as the Roman Empire acquiring Christianity. So that's how old it is, right? Right. Who's the guy who made it now? I'm trying to think. My mind's gone blank. This happens to me.
That's okay. We'll do that on another stream. We'll get all researched up, make sure we got our ducks in a row. We can go on a full philosophy stream.
Yeah. But it's so cool because when you get into these things and then you hear other people talking from different perspectives, like different spiritual perspectives, you find how everyone's saying similar things. And that's one thing that I love to see. Like in Neoplatonic philosophy, the whole concept is you have the one. The one is basically what most people would call God, right? And it's think of it like there's a hierarchy to existence, and at the top is the one, and the one is unified being, like completely unified being. And then each level of existence has slightly more levels of multiplicity, and then this world has the most level of multiplicity. And then the higher up your soul ascends in these levels, the more unified you feel. That's just like the more unified you become in existence. So when people talk about even deja vu and or all of these things, it's like because their soul has acquired knowledge through this higher level. it just sounds very similar to when people talk about spirituality and talk about how everything's connected and in the universe and stuff. It's like it's so cool to see the same thing being said, but just in different ways.
Dude, 100%. Well, that's literally what Torus is. Torus is like as above, so below. It's like the one. It's like if you zoom out of the Torus logo, it looks like a star. If you zoom in, it looks like a magnetic field. If you zoom in even further, you're kind of getting this little small little imprint of what you could consider as a person, so to speak. It's like a little tiny piece of it, right? But when you zoom out, you see the whole. And when you zoom out even further, you see that macrocosm becoming a microcosm of an even bigger macrocosm. And we should go on that rabbit hole.
100%. We're gonna have to do another stream, guys. We'll book another one in.
That will be fun. Looking forward.
I know it's really funny. I actually just remembered my zodiac signs are Taurus. So.
Oh really? That's fun.
I'm here, man. I think I was destined for the stream.
The stars are literally aligning.
100%. 100%. Cool, guys. Yes, that's earning. And sorry about that tangent, guys. We had to do it. But so it's aiming to be basically this huge compounding beast. It's gonna be an absolute animal in terms of just sucking in economic energy, which is really bullish for Titan X, because what's it gonna do with that Titan X it gets from earning? It's gonna push it through. It's gonna transform it, right?
Yep. Yeah, and it's going to take the majority, almost the majority of it, just under the majority. But basically, all but 8% of the ETH is going to buy Titan X. All of the Titan X, whether it starts from ETH and goes into Titan X, or just comes in as Titan X, goes through X28. So basically, 92% of all the economic energy goes through X28, which means 46% of all the economic energy that will ever go through Torus in Titan X is burnt.
Wow, that's insane. Can you imagine having a compounding protocol on X28? Like, what's that going to do? Like, what's that going to do to Titan X? Titan X is going to disappear, man. It's going to fall. It's going to be gone.
And the crazy thing is we're already burning 0.3% a day. X28's not even really doing its thing yet. Jake has said the piston's not even firing. The buy-in burn in X28 is not even pushing up that ARB ceiling to create a FOMO for people to start burning. So once you have Torus, once you have Flare, because Flare's also built on X28. Once you have, I believe Stacks is out too, or coming out too, and they're going to be on X28. Yep. Once you have X28 itself actually working, and all the protocols combined doing their, the machines are going to do things that the world is not ready for.
It's going to be crazy. It's crazy because with X28, right, like you can only get it through transforming or buying it. So either you're going to push the ARB price up, which makes people transform if you buy, or you transform it and burn half your Titan X. So it's like it's forcing everyone down one corridor, and it's like half the people won't make it if you think there's people at Titan X. Like half the Titan X is not going to get through the other side. It's crazy, man. It's such a game. It feels like that kind of move before checkmate.
Yes.
That's how it feels like.
I don't know what that's called, but that's a great analogy for it.
Yeah. It's crazy. All right, so let's get into staking.
Is this just check?
There's check. I think check is when the king can still move or block.
Right. Okay, check,
yeah.
Right, it's where checkmate is imminent, but I don't know what that's called. Never mind. I thought I knew.
It's awesome. Like when you're like playing someone that's not as good as you in chess, and you set up a checkmate, they can't see it. You're like, oh man, this guy does not know what's happening. Bang, destroy him. That's what it feels like.
That's so true.
That's how it feels.
So true.
Okay, so with staking, so this is really cool, and this Torus has a mining ability, a compounding game, but then this staking element, it's not like Titan X staking. It's not even like hyper staking. Because hyper staking is the hyper you earn has basically been brought off market. Torus has its own kind of rewards pool, and so you can earn from creating, which we showed, and then you can also earn through staking. So its staking is it's kind of like it feels a bit more similar to Hex. I don't want to say it's like Hex because Hex is T-shares and it's got its own game, but it's a form of native staking. Which is really, really cool to see. And one thing I like what you did here is this fee. I think this fee could be it's underrated with the staking. So basically, guys, when you're going to stake your Torus, you take your Torus, you select how long And this is cool because this is the same amount of time as the creating. So there's, like you said a lot that there's going to be a lot of competition here, between stakers and creators. I can see that because it's the same amount of time. So you lock your Torus up, you select the time, and then it will calculate your shares for you in the pool by taking the total Torus and timesing it by, was it the length squared?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's going to times the total Torus you're staking with the time you're staking it for squared. That determines your shares of the pool, and you earn from the reward pool. And yeah, you have this fee here. What's this fee, my friend?
So this fee is like one of the most unique things with Torus, where it, if people want to come in and think they can just overrun the protocol, well, they have to benefit all of the users in order to do that, and they have to pay to fund the buy and burn, the buy and build, and there's also some deeper implications as you go on in time, because with creating and staking, or with creating specifically, which also affects staking, every day that you want to create with, you get less Torus for the same Titan that you would use to create with, right? So on day one, you get 1,000. On day two, you're getting 999, or 9,900, or 99,000. No, wait, hold on. 999.2, essentially. Okay. Right. And it's going to go down by 0.08% each day. But what this does is it makes it so that no matter what action someone's taking in the system, they are benefiting the buy and burn. They're benefiting others. You cannot play for free. Everything is going to cost, and you're going to have to make an action that supports everybody if you want to make an action that's most selfish for you. So, and that is the name of the game with Torus. Every selfish action benefits everybody else in some way, shape, or form.
That's super bullish, because what people most drawn, motivated by in this space is greed, right? So, yeah, and I believe, I think it was in the white paper, right? On the UI is going to have a huge ROI kind of ROI thing there. So people are going to be very tempted once they see that to go in the staking thing. And that's actually one thing that those small features, like having the ROI very big and visible, Jake did it with Titan X. When you make your Titan X miner, you can see the ROI and stuff. That stuff is so powerful from a user perspective. It's really underrated. It's not a tokenomic, but it's something in the UI that it can pull people in, because they can see how much I could have. That's a bullish thing.
100%. And I want it to be as simple, as plain to understand, as obvious. And I'm actually going to go and I'm going to try and find a little link here that I can send you to give you a little sneak peek at how this ROI is going to look here. If I can find it. I got to go just find the link from the designer. Yeah, it's really cool. Like, the guy who's building the dApp is literally, like, he's incredible at what he does. I feel really lucky, and luckily, because I'm connected to the guys at Dragon X, like Eric and his team. They are going to be building it, but they also connected me to the guy that's designed their site. And if you've seen the new page from Dragon X, the new landing page, it's incredible. Like, it's amazing. So, this here is the link.
Okay, man, I'm so almost proud or excited about these new protocols, because I've seen a few of these UIs and they are looking so good.
And when you
such
see this,
nice
it'll be. I want it to be top tier. Like, I want it to be something that people remember because of how beautiful it is and how nice of the user experience it is.
Let's have a look. Yeah, because having a good user experience is just such an important thing. Guys, don't forget, when you go to any website and you're not happy with how the website looks, you just don't feel as good using it, right? Like,
100%.
Think about it. You want people to feel good when they're using your product that you spend time and hours and days and weeks and months creating,
Oh, 1,000%. It's everything. It's how people, every aspect of how they interact with what you've built goes into their desire to keep participating, and their desire to tell their friends, their desire to talk about it on social media, so the better you can make things, the more they're going to become a part of your team and talk about you to others publicly in all forms.
Okay, I found the link. I was a bit confused. I thought you sent on Telegram. I was like, this, I can't see it on Telegram.
Oh, I sent it to you in the private chat here. Yeah.
That's cool. I found it. Yeah, man. That's what we want to see. It's just literally in your face. And you know, with a lot of people, we keep our tabs open.
Yep.
Like, I can speak for this. I have a bunch of crypto tabs open, especially if you're playing auctions. You want to check different auctions, like which one's got good ROI. You know, when you open Torus, you've got your Torus tokens, you've just created them, right? Or you're going to create them. You can see that ROI. It's just you click on the tab and it's just staring at you in the face. You're like, oh, that's looking nice.
Do you want to share it so everyone else can see on the main screen as well?
Let's do that.
Yeah, I'm not going to show the full DApp, but this is one part that I want people to understand of how simple it's going to be.
It's such a bullish feature, guys. Honestly, I think that's one thing Jake really did, really a good job on. I think I have to stop sharing this. Oh, I have stopped. Okay. Okay. Hopefully that is visible. So this is the video. I'll bring it to the start. So yeah, let's just play it and we'll comment on it.
And this is the one thing that I got to say is when it says minor ROI, minor's deleted. That was old verbiage. But this is it. It's huge. It's in your face. The connect wallet button is dope. Like, I've never seen that done before.
It's really cool.
Yeah. So that's your little sneak peek of the DApp. But all the numbers are going to be huge.
You know, it's nice having a reactive DApp. Like you hover over the connect wallet, it opens up, there's the logo, there's all these things going on. It's just those little features really make a difference.
Yep, all the nuance adds up.
Yeah, man. Right, let me just move back to the other one. Where am I? Yeah. Yeah, this protocol, like, it's funny because when you before you launched it, I remember it was like you were saying it's going to be very different from everything else. And when it came out, the first like slide with it just says something like create, stake, and then earn. And I was like, you were like, it looks simple, but there's a lot behind the scenes. And man, I've really felt that because creating these diagrams and stuff, I had to like kind of really, you know, spend a lot of time thinking over like, why is this like this? Why is that like that? You know, and you see all the little cogs in the system that are moving. So
yeah, and shout out to you for doing all this. Like it is a lot of work. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of small details, and the fact that you're capturing all of it, like that's really cool, man. I appreciate you doing that.
I appreciate that as well. I love to do this. I feel like, you know, I want to provide value for my users and my you know, people who tune in and listen. And then also I want to provide value for you as a founder, that when you come on here, you're going to get this kind of cool diagram breakdown of what you're doing. So that's why I do what I do. And yeah, man, it's good to do it. I mean, I wouldn't be able to do it with all these awesome protocols coming out. So, you know.
Well, I appreciate it. I like, regardless, it's it means a lot, and you're right. It does add so much to the visual aspect of trying to understand it. It's so easy to get lost in the words and trying to like imagine what this might mean, but to see it laid out like this, brilliant.
Seeing it makes a big difference. Like, you know, when you're talking about like buy and burns or stuff, and there's like all these percentages, there's all these percentages of Titan X flowing everywhere. You got 23% here, you know, 6% there, and then that's phase one, and phase two happens, and it changes. Like, it just, sometimes I feel like it's hard to follow. So yeah, that's why we're 100%. Doing it. What we're doing.
Before we go to the early end stake, I want to talk about one thing in the staking just to clear up the fee real quick, because this is 5% fee, right? Or it says fee. Now I want to talk about how it's generated. So because the system is based on looking at things or making things equal, right? You only get an advantage, so to speak, when the price is higher or lower, and then you want to take certain actions, and then the system just incentivizes you to basically take those actions. But in order for a fee to be determined, the system essentially says, okay, you want to stake 1,000 Torus? How much would it cost as of today to create 1,000 Torus, or however many tokens you want to stake? And then it looks to see in Titan X how much that is, or ETH, whichever one you want to choose. And then it just takes the 5% of that and says, here's the fee that you have to pay. So if you want to stake 100,000 tokens, you can do that. You just pay 5% of the creating cost for 100,000 tokens, and so on.
That's cool. So it's like with the staking, you know, this is actually a really cool thing, because I feel like with a lot of protocols, right? If you have a lot of supply, you can just stake it and there's no fee, and you can have a dominance over the stake pool. But then with the fee, it kind of means that the cost to stake kind of tracks the cost to create. If that makes sense.
100%.
So yeah, it kind of keeps everything. This is fair crypto. It feels like it is more fair, and I think a lot of people will definitely like this, and we'll probably discuss a bit more in a bit with people being worried about being diluted in the stake pool here.
And I've seen people even asking about the whole can something like Dragon X be built on top of Torus? And I would love to go into that conversation.
Yeah, I think we'll get to those. If you want, we can get to those right at the end. So we'll go through the mechanics, and we can get to those questions right at the end.
That sounds perfect.
Cool. So yeah, with the early end stake here, so is it the case that you can only early end stake once that 50% mark is hit?
Correct.
Yeah. So guys, with this protocol here, you have 50% once the stake time is 50%. So let's say you did it for 88 days. Once it hits day 44, you will be able to unstake your Torus. And if you were to early end stake, at the 50% mark, you won't get any of the tokens you earned. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. You just get your principal.
Okay. So yeah, so if you were to come here and claim, you get 100% of your stake tokens. And then if you do get your earned Torus, it's basically by this little logic box. I put it here. So the way it works is for every 1% past 50% of the time you've to complete your stake has happened, you get 2% additional Torus tokens from the earned.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird to say, but if you could think about it in this way, because you're condensing all of what you earn into only 50% of the time frame that you're going to be serving, every 1% of that serving has to give you basically double that percentage in order to actually equal 100% of your rewards, right? That's all it is. So basically, and what's really cool is over time, right? You are like, let's say on day 45, you did a max length stake, right? On day 45, let's say you are 1%, you get 51%, or let's forget the days. You're 51% of your progress, right? You're earning 2% of what you've earned so far. Now, this is what's really interesting to think about. You've earned 2% of now 51% of what you could possibly have earned on the total period. And so what happens is you get this exponential increase in what you can claim from your earned tokens the closer you get to 100% progress. And so you get the least amount possible, and then it rapidly grows over time because you're still earning, and you're earning now 3% of 60% of the rewards, now 10% of 80% of the rewards. It just keeps exponentially climbing.
I see. Yeah. That, and then that will basically incentivize people just to keep it for as long as for the longest time, because the rewards it's this graph, right? It's straight up, like it curves, and then it grows really quickly.
Yep.
So yeah, I like that. I like that this feature's there. It gives people, I feel, a bit more, because people might be worried about locking the tokens up or what happens in the market and stuff like that. So it's always nice to see that you can claim back before you've hit the end. And the only penalties is basically just on what you're earning. So I feel like that's cool because people don't feel like they're losing their principal, which is a really nice feature to see here. Yeah, it's really nice to see that. And I actually didn't think of it like that. I didn't think of it as being exponential, but that's a really good little detail of information for people to have there. Guys, if you want to get the most, then stay committed to what you do. Stay committed to what you do.
100%. 100%. And one interesting thing about, again, because you might think, okay, well, if someone wants to just end their stake, because we're going back to the idea of any action creates a positive reaction for the system. So if you are effectively, let's say price skyrockets for whatever reason, let's say Titan X is ripping, it's dragging up, Torus. Well, let's say it goes high enough where now if you were to end your stake early at the 50% mark, sell what you or exit and compound and start creating, essentially, you are from a user standpoint, it's the most selfish thing you can do. Get out early, go back in, and you'd think about people exiting and selling on the price. But what's happening is they've brought in 5% in a protocol fee, and then they brought in 100%. So now they brought in 105% of what they could have brought into the system over a more condensed period of time. So
wow,
it serves everybody.
Yeah. And then if they, go past the 50% mark and they start making more Torus, then when they sell that to recompound into earning, if creating becomes profitable again, then they're going to be slapping in even more economic energy back in. So
yep,
there's that's really cool. Yeah. And then, like you said, like, you don't know what's going to happen to the token price. Like, if the token skyrockets, like, and you're like 70% in, and you realize, oh my god, there's a huge ROI now, you can exit, and then that's what I mean. It's a compounding beast,
Yep, 100%. It's going to be really cool. And I mean, the staking side of things can be used strategically in so many ways. Like, the sky is the limit to use dual strategies, to use early ending the stake, to use staking as a way, if you're a massive player, to reduce slippage and still have like a golden goose, so to speak. I mean, there's just so much to it.
Yeah, I've really liked what you've done with the staking. So I think I have got a bit on here where I've tried to explain my thoughts on it. Yeah, I think I have there. So we'll get to that in a second.
Yep.
One thing I noticed when I was going through this that I think is really cool is basically, in a sense, if you're either creating or staking, and by doing both you're earning, and if it's the same amount of tokens, you get the same amount of shares. In some respect, the shares that you earn through staking are cheaper, in the sense that you pay 5% protocol fee to get the same amount of shares as someone who has to spend all of that Titan-X to create that Torus.
Assuming you didn't buy the tokens on the market.
Yeah.
Right. So that is the one. Yes. Like, you will, it's the way the system is created is that staking is the least lucrative or the most inefficient way to operate when creating is most incentivized. The opposite is also true. So if the price is lower, then creating makes no sense. And really, staking is the way to go, because you can either buy it off the market or you don't have to sell, right? And you're only paying a 5% fee. And you could possibly even buy more on the market to help your position, right? To get a bigger position at a discount and pay 5% fee. And you're still getting a discount on the total amount of cost it would take to create that same amount of tokens, right? And so it will be very clear, though, in the UI. It'll say ROI higher here, ROI higher here. And you kind of want to follow that. Now, you can split that, do strategies and stuff like that, but there's a reason for that. And it's disincentivizing either action when one of them is incentivized. So you really got to think about staking when it's more profitable to create, and creating when it's more profitable to stake.
Wow. Okay. That's awesome. So one way one thing I noticed basically with the protocol is, if we look at the mining model that we've seen so far in these protocols, I feel that Torus is aiming to really improve upon this model, or basically improve certain aspects where this model may fall short. So this is not me talking about any particular protocol. This is just generally the mining model of these protocols that we're seeing. Is you kind of have token 1, you go to mine token 2, and some of that token 1 economic energy gets put into a buy and burn, which is going to buy token 2. So that pushes token 2 up in price. And then essentially what's going to happen here is people have made a lot of money. They sell token 2 back for token 1, and then they repeat this process here. So this compounding process is going to become like a wormhole. Like I said before, it's going to suck in just tons of economic energy into it, and it can go absolutely crazy. But then there is an instance where maybe the user base bringing new ETH in, or new token 1 in, slows down, where basically this mining it doesn't become profitable anymore. So it kind of has these cycles And when you're on the down cycle where mining isn't profitable, what a lot of users are doing right now is they can't grow their position anymore. So they're resorting to just hold their token. But the cool thing that I see with Torus and what Torus allows you to do is, let's say, creating ROI goes down, you can still grow your position. So, it kind of fixes that problem of people just sitting there and not being able to do much of their tokens. I remember a lot of people asking like Jake about that, like right at the start of Titan X, or like what happens if mining's not profitable. And we have this whole ecosystem built on Titan X, so there's so much you can do with Titan X. But like, this has got something inherent to the protocol that you can do. And if that creating ROI does go down, then you can take your Torus and simply stake it, and then by doing that, you're still paying a 5% fee. So you're getting like the existing user base, and they're going to start rotating that flywheel again, because now the existing user base that you've created are putting in 5% each to stake, which then gets the flywheel moving. You don't need to bring in necessarily more people. The people that are already there are going to start kicking that flywheel again. And at the end of the day, if you're worried about are people going to stake, ROI is ROI. Like, if people see it in their face, they're going to do it. That's just the way I see things, right? Like, if it's there, people are going to do it. People are going to pay that fee, and then that just goes straight into the system. So, do you think my analysis there was correct? Is there anything you would correct?
No, it was spot on. I mean, the point of Torus, like you said, is to allow people to consistently be able to grow their positions, and that is what I want people to understand deeply, is that unlike any other protocol, you can compound like Titan X and you could stake like Hex all over a shorter period. Like most staking protocols, you have to, in order to earn the max shares, you have to stake for 10 to 15 years, especially the ones we're most familiar with. And I did not want that. I wanted people to be able to come. It's equal playing field. Effectively, creating and staking are two actions that just get you shares. And, you could, the way I like to think about this is like, there's been an evolution. Bitcoin was version 1, where you had effectively, you could think about it like a mining pool, so to speak, but it's not really a mining pool, where mining or miners, people that bought GPU hardware, paid electricity bills, they go and they essentially run their hardware. They earn Bitcoin from block rewards by basically getting a number right, figuring out what number is the jackpot number. And that comes into existence. Now, when they have Bitcoin that is valued at high enough where it is now getting them more profit than their electricity expenses, their hardware expenses, they could do two things, or a few things, right? One, they could sell for profit, which is then any of the holders or the purchasers, right? The market buyers are all exit liquidity, right? Or they could compound and essentially use that profit to buy more mining hardware and continue that process to earn more and more and more and more, right? Now, what Hex did is it removed the mining, and it said, okay, well, what if the stakers, right? Because it recognized that the mining was an issue because the people that actually held the token couldn't do anything. You had to have all this fancy hardware. It didn't seem like it fit, right? So Richard Hart came out and said, I'm going to fix this and give the stakers back the power. And so people could stake and lock up for 15 years. And the problem, though, was because there wasn't a point of fair value, which I like to refer to which was there in Bitcoin, which is the cost of electricity and hardware. And you can go, and when you are above that point, you could compound essentially your mining equipment to get you more Bitcoin eventually, right? Hex removed that, but gave the stakers the power. When Titan X came back in, it removed that ability to stake for most of the supply, but also allowed people to then compound, right? And so Torus is the evolution of all these things. It combines the central mining pool with the staking and the compounding of mining all together into one to create what you were saying, like you were saying too. It solves a puzzle that no one's been able to solve yet.
Yeah. Wow, man, that is so cool. I love this space. We're in the best place. We're in the best place. We're watching this this game just keep on developing and keep on building and keep on improving. So it's so cool, man. And I'm really excited to see how all of this stuff plays out, how all of these protocols play out. because even Hyper, some would say, was some a bit of an improvement on Titan, had the Vortex and stuff like that. So we're constantly refining these systems and just building even more crazy stuff. And look, the best bit is this is all built on Titan X. It's all built on X28. So it's not about competition and this one's better than that one. We're all helping each other. Like, we're all in the same ecosystem bubble here. Everything Torus does is going to benefit Titan, right? It's going to bring in economic energy. It could get, it's cool to see. It's amazing to see. We haven't seen these kind of this level of innovation, but all within one ecosystem before, like all within one bubble. That directly benefit each other. So
it's pretty special time and a pretty special ecosystem.
I'm very bullish. Yeah, I'm super bullish on this ecosystem. It's insane. I think everything I said I wrote down here.
Yeah, I think you absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I was 4 a.m. thoughts.
For 4 a.m. thoughts, those are pretty coherent compared to my 4 a.m. thoughts.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I'm kind of a night owl, so I'm used to it now. So
gotcha.
Yeah, I guess my 4 a.m. is everyone else's 11 p.m. Let's put it like that. Nice. I think I said this as well. It's about the shares in the pool, the main question. Yeah, so I think this was right here. So the main question a user who has already created Torus needs to ask themselves is the APR higher right now if I was to recompound my Torus into creating, or is it better just to stake it? Is the ROI more?
Yep.
So it sounds super complex what we're talking about, guys, but it's actually super simple. And the ROI, I keep saying ROI instead of UI. The user, the user interface is going to be super simple. So, it's really down to in my in the overview here. This is down to this.
Yep, that's all it is.
Down to that. Yeah, from a user perspective, which is nice.
Yep.
Oh, I've lost. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So next, I think we'll get on to is the Titan X ETH distribution.
Yes. Oh, this is the fun part.
So this is where we're getting into the weeds, guys. We're getting into the weeds. So so there's two phases. Was this a new change? I think, was it?
Yeah, this came after our conversation with Jake, actually about about a week ago. I started asking him some questions about just liquidity and all this stuff, and we were just going back and forth. And he was telling me what he's learned from Shogun, and he had said, building the LP continuously is like huge, right? And the only thing I didn't like about the LP being permanently big, right, which was it still has a lot of buy pressure if you're doing that way, but the issue was it takes away from one of the big selling points of the system, which is the massive buy and burn, right? The ability to delete the supply and to balance itself out over time, which that's what Torus does best is self-balance, right? Through all the actions that you can take into decision-making. But I really took that to, every suggestion that people make to me, I really take and ask, okay, how can this be true? How much of it can be true? Is there any application here? And I've made so many changes the last while because I'm listening and I'm really wanting to get this perfect. I don't care about it being my creation and being the thing I design. It needs to be perfect. It needs to be a win for anyone that gets involved, whoever's ideas it is. And so then it dawned on me, like, well, how can I do both? How can I maintain the buy and burn and still build the LP? And then like one night just popped in my head, wait, what if I just split the difference? Create a first phase of 28 days, which is primarily focused on the buy and build, and then revert the focus back over to the buy and burn after day 28. And then boom, here we are. And this is like a week ago, this change happened.
Yeah, but what a great place to be, because, I know, like you're saying, you're talking to these people who are, Jake and everyone who is giving you some advice, but bro, everyone you're talking to is like experts in this field. So it's like, it's the best place to be for building, It's such a cool thing to see. So this is, and I said this at the start of the stream, those tuning in now, you might have missed it, but with these phases, there's two phases. There's so like CRYPTOGRFX just said, there's the first stage, which is more centered to buy and building the LP, and then the second stage is buy and burn focused. But let me show you guys quickly, when we talk about the focus being on build LP, let me just show you how aggressive this buy and burns to this, guys. Bro, that's still like, for those who might be thinking, token price might be a bit slow in the first phase. No, token price is going to be great. It's still going to be good.
And this is a perfect answer to Cinematic Euphoria's second question regarding when people create, will it be just like Zen and continually dump? No. No. Just stay tuned for this important message.
Yeah, I mean, like this is aggressive. Like this is, I think Titan X is something like 68%.
62%. Or yeah, I think it's a little bit higher because it's got the burn pool that never got activated.
Yeah,
so I think it's 69%.
Something like that. So it's, guys, this is almost as aggressive as Titan X was, right? Like this is still solid tokenomics that we've seen work. Don't think that, first phase build LP, like token price might not. No, the token price will be great. Like it's still, I also I had to laugh a little bit when I was reading about. I was like 64%. Like that's still really good.
Well, and that doesn't tell the full story. Now we'll get to how the buy and build still actually what that implies for the total buy pressure, but won't get there right now. We'll lead there, but like the buy and build is still buy pressure. So just wait. It gets even better than 64%, even in the first phase.
And that's the key thing to distinguish is buy and burn. Everyone loves it because it's like programmed buy pressure with a burn. But buy and build is still, and we'll get to it, it's still buy pressure.
Yep.
So you have enormous buy pressure here. And that's really bullish. So this is basically the breakdown of phase one. We've got our actor here. I didn't give him a name this time, but let's just call him Jimmy. So we've got Jimmy. And Jimmy, he's gonna go either earn or create or stake. I keep an earn. That's my bad. He's gonna either create or stake, and the percentages of his Titan X or ETH get split up like this. So everything that comes in, 64% goes to the buy and burn. 28%, that's a bullish number, goes towards the buy and build, and then Genesis 8%. So that's essentially how everything is split up. And we've seen, like you mentioned with Jake, like his approach to Shogun being a lot about building the LP. There's got to be some secret sauce there. I know you put out an amazing tweet recently about how important the LP to market cap ratio is. Was that something you were basically considering when you put this in?
Yeah, like it started to dawn on me the more Jake and I were talking about the LP, and I was already aware of it, but I was thinking of a slower build process and that it would scale over time. And when we started talking, it became super apparent that if you can get, especially because that post was in conjunction with this decision, and that post was effectively saying that most big tokens and small tokens have what's called a liquidity to market cap ratio, which means looks at the dollars in the liquidity that if someone were to cash out, what's there, right? Versus the total economic energy that all users or is just held in that token. So Bitcoin has like over 1,700 to 1. So which means for every $1 in liquidity, there's $1,770 essentially held by the user. That's a terrible ratio. ETH was about 600 and something dollars to 1. But Titan X, this is just Titan X. Of course, we could say the same thing for ETH, where we could say what I'm about to say for Titan X, which is we're not using the whole ecosystem to measure that. But even if we did, we'd only have to double it, which means Titan X's liquidity to market cap ratio is 90, like 2 or 3 to 1. Again, remember, wow. ETH was 600 and something to 1, and that doesn't even include all the aspects of, or all the protocols built on ETH that need to go through ETH in order to get out. It gets way worse if you consider that. So Titan X at its worst math is better than like all liquidity ratios in any other system and token, which is
that's
like
amazing,
crazy, right?
And
so,
yeah.
No, please go.
I was gonna say, and then we've had a little bit of like liquidity FUD recently, guys. Don't worry, this liquidity FUD is just silly, man. We're sitting in a good position,
Oh, it's crazy. And let me ask you a quick question too. Where does all the ETH that's in the buy and burns end up?
The liquidity pool.
So there's your anti-FUD statement right there.
There is, man. That's it. It's true. It's all gonna go into the liquidity pool, and it's gonna it's gonna build that LP and build that ratio. It's gonna increase that ratio. It's gonna lessen that ratio, right? Yeah, it's gonna make the ratio even more cleaner.
Yeah, it'll either enhance it or keep it where it's at.
Mhm.
Right? Like
Wow.
think about that for a second, right? So where we sit right now is far as light years ahead of the majority of protocols out there, systems out there. And we have the ability to maintain that. And in fact, the amount of ETH out there in the protocols could literally buy up half the market cap's worth of economic energy right now. It's almost $30 million.
That's one of the most amazing things about this ecosystem is how we've kind of built this system where people can evaluate the economic energy that can come into any of these protocols simply by looking at buy and burn. Like with so many other coins, you're just holding them and you're hoping people buy them in a sense. Like you're hoping that people clock onto why they're good coins to hold, and the community grows. But with this, we have the machines basically.
Yeah,
So
do
cool.
we ever?
Yeah, and look, these machines here, these buy and burn and buy and build machines are going to trap 64 plus 28 mental maths, 92% of the economic energy. So that's cool. That's amazing. 92% of the economic energy is going to be going back into building the LP, burning tokens, and just, yeah, super cool.
And quick question for you.
Go on.
Of the buy and build, in order for a buy and build to work, how much of that economic energy goes into buying Torus? Question, trick, or pop quiz.
50%.
So then if you were to add that 50% of that number to the buy and burn total, what's the buy pressure that you get in the build phase?
So 14% plus 64%. So that's my brain 78%.
78% in the build phase.
78%. And look, like I mean, people don't be worried about the token price right now, guys. You got basically 74% of the economic energy going to go and buy up Torus. Let me drop the mic right now. Yeah, so that's phase one, and then basically how that changes for phase two is like this. So yeah, this is aggressive. This is super mega aggressive. 84% of all the economic energy that comes in is going to be a straight buy and going to go straight into buy and burn.
Yep.
And then so I noticed this in the white paper, you have introduced the fractal, and that comes in. Is that that's definitely post 28 days?
That's going on with the buy and burn initially.
Okay.
That is no matter what.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
So So of the buy and burn, you're going to get the fractal, and then you're going to have the straight buy and burn. For those who don't understand what the fractal is, it's going to be like the vortex.
Yeah.
So
you can think of it as like a time locked vault that is essentially stashing away for safekeeping 28% of all the economic energy that would go to the buy and burn. So that way, every 110 days, there's always economic energy in the system. Even if the buy and burn gets run so hot that it runs out, you know that there's going to be economic energy because it's 28% of the total that's coming in. That's almost a third of everything that gets put into the buy and burn, which is huge. So there should be a massive amount in the fractal that will come out every 110 days. And of course, I like my 11s. That's why I chose 110 days. I like the idea of fractals and ever repeating sequences through time. So it was just the perfect name for it.
That's cool. Yeah. So this is basically one of those innovations we saw Jake introduce with Hyper in the Vortex. And it's so cool because one of the biggest FUDs, so to speak, in the early days of Titan was what happens if buy and burn runs dry. With this, you basically have a guarantee that after all of the supplies out from the initial mint phase or the initial mining phase, you have a third of the economic energy that went into that will rotate back out and deal basically with that supply that's coming up. And it's every 110 days. Yeah, that's a bit more than I believe the Hyper one, right? I think Hyper might be like 90 something days.
Yeah, it's 98. So it's 10 days after the 10, then 20, then 30, then 40, then 50, as it cyclically goes on.
Yeah. Cool. And then, yeah, so buy and build will go to 8%.
Yep. Comes way down.
That was what it was that what it was going to be at the start when I think on the first live stream I watched, it was just 8%, and then you introduced the phases.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, 8% was originally chosen, and it reverts back to that because if Torus can establish its initial liquidity and then has an established liquidity to market cap ratio, that will only grow over time. Because if Titan X goes up, anything like when you have an asset that is paired with one asset, like two assets paired together, and that asset goes up in value, we know Hart's law, we know the liquidity bonding, we know all that stuff, liquidity webs. But what happens to liquidity is really interesting. If Titan X goes up 10x, and that thing that's paired with it goes up at the same ratio, then the liquidity 10x's, right? Yeah. So if you establish let's say in the build phase we get $10 million comes in the first 10 days, and $2.8 million is able to go into liquidity. When Titan X and Torus 10x together, that means that the total liquidity goes to 28 million.
Yep.
If we're at 100x, $280 million in liquidity.
Wow.
That's before this 8% ever gets added, because that's going to be continuously going on in the background as well, building. And that's more the reason. So just for people to understand too, the reason it switches down to 8 is because then it can slowly mature and slowly grow. And it still allows for natural volatility. It still allows for dynamics to be at play where the system can react to, and it creates a nice ebb and flow over time that will eventually squish its volatility, allow for more users to come in, provide more stability, and still mature.
Yeah. That's awesome. Like I the way I'm thinking of it is, what you've been saying about liquidity and stuff, especially in that amazing thread he wrote, that you wrote on the Torus official Twitter. If you think that market cap to liquidity ratio is basically the most important thing, at least when a protocol's starting out, then if you get that bit sorted right at the start, then you can go super aggressive on the buy and burn, still build that liquidity with the 8% going to the buy and build. And it's kind of like you set the stage for the buy and burn. Like now the buy and burn is going to be possibly more effective because there's so much liquidity. So yeah, that's how I'm seeing it. Like you're starting at the base. Like what's the most important thing for this protocol or for any protocol to have a good market cap to liquidity ratio? And then once we have established that, let's go aggressive on buying and burning it.
Yep, 100%.
Wow, that's so cool. Because if you think about one of the I guess you could say limitations of buy and burn is that the only supply it can burn is whatever's in the LP. So if you have thick LP, and this one thing we saw with farms, like one of the great things that farms gives is thick LP, it makes the buy and burn more efficient. Now that buy and burn just has a lot more supply in that LP to chew on, so it makes the buy and burn super effective.
It's going to be a really cool system to see it work with the duality of essentially being able to say thank you to anyone that sells and just takes it and puts it back into liquidity, and also to compensate because there is 2 tiers of supply coming out, right? And so you effectively have a supply that's created one-to-one with value injected, and then a surplus value that is going to be wanting to come out used in some way, shape, or form that is not necessarily directly supported by Titan X or ETH that comes in, right? And so to be able to capture that and burn it creates this nice stable growth over time, where the only real supply that's going to come out is going to come from the Torus pool, because the majority of what's going to be created is like a buffer for people to make an ROI. But then because it's basically 88% buy pressure from the system is capturing 88% of all the value that's been created by the user, meaning that the supply expansion isn't going to be massive. It's going to be completely controlled over time. And the only main supply we're going to see is going to be from the Torus pool plus a little bit of what's created.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing, because people who create, if they stake, they're locking the tokens. So the main supply to worry about, would be that Torus pool that's coming out. Wow, there's so much to think about here, man. I need to pour myself another cup of tea here. No, actually, I haven't have enough.
Yeah, it's like I said, this is one of those systems where you look at it and you're like, okay, create, stake, earn. So what? Right. And then the deeper you go, the more things open up and you see the potential over time. And, one of the things that we haven't talked about to do with the buy and burn is what staking does as a mechanism. And it creates a reflexive system for the buy and burn.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say people go in and there's not, let's say people go in and there's a huge ROI. And people are either compounding or selling, or either way, they're dumping the price down to do one action or another, right? The price goes low enough where now some people created, but others now, because the ROI is lower, they're choosing to stake. So when people choose to stake, what happens? There stops being sell pressure. People are taking their tokens and they're locking them up. This means the buy and burn has less work it needs to do to move that price back up, or less basically resistance, right? To move that price back up, which means that those who are staking are feeding the buy and burn and giving it breathing room to be able to then move the price back up. So now they're compounding starting from low because they got a deal on their Torus, right? Or they're only paying 5%. They're still earning, and then they're compounding now because the price is going up. So their ROI is going up exponentially for them. And then by the time they're done, now they can really compound, and they're still bringing in economic energy back into the system.
Wow, amazing. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's exactly it, right? Like, if they lock their tokens up, you put it in such a good way that it gives the buy and burn breathing space. And then once the buy and burn works through pushing price up, then what happens when all those stakers, they're 50% in, 60% in, they choose, oh, hold on, earning or creating is looking pretty insane right now. Let's early end claim our stakes and then drive that economic energy back into creating again. So it kicks that flywheel, That's so cool to see. Yeah.
And all the while, just to chime in real quick, all the while, every one of these actions we're talking about burns Titan-X. Every single one. And if people are playing this game to the way it's designed, they're not going in once. They're not going in twice. They're going in and in and in. And they're creating a golden goose, so to speak, where you have your money printers, as we used to talk about in Hex, that you're working either side of the system, depending on the market conditions. And you're able to have your essentially your principal that you're utilizing, and maybe you're scraping a bit off here and there to, enjoy life a little bit. But you have your golden goose that also, by having your golden goose and making your golden goose keep printing more golden eggs, you're supporting the system.
It's amazing. And guys, like, think about this, right? So you got 84%, 8%. That's going to be 4% of that's going to buy up Torus. So you've got 88% buy pressure on Torus. A lovely number. And then, like when I was showing you guys, if I go back to this model of the mining, the reason why this model is so effective at being this kind of wormhole on the ecosystem is essentially because you have huge buy pressure on token 2 that pushes this price up of token 2, which then makes people compound back into the system. So all these different elements that we have in Torus with the staking and the huge aggressive amount of buy pressure, it's literally, I might have to name this the steroid mining Torus model. It's like, it's just insane the amount of buy pressure that this token's gonna have. And then with the fact that people will lock up their tokens, it just, all these little elements make this system more efficient, more effective. This is another level, man. This is so cool to see.
Thanks, man. I'm really excited to see this come to life. And soon, man. We're only like a month or two away tops.
Bro, I knew when you were saying you're gonna build something, I was like, this guy's been cooking,
I'm glad you guys didn't see my first few protocols, because I thought I was cooking, but I was just burning shit.
You're mixing all the flavors together, like not getting the right consistency.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's many of those.
All right, man. But to be a great chef, you have to do that, right?
That's a good point.
There you go. So Yeah, we will have to go. We'll have to go through that. Yeah, so we'll get into how these work in a bit. So yeah, this is how the bind burn function works on a logical level, like what it does. So it's gonna have Titan X or ETH because people can, create with Titan X or ETH, and then basically what it's gonna do is the ETH in here will 100% of it will buy up Titan X, and then all of the Titan X will be converted into X28, and then that's gonna buy and burn Torus, all of it.
Yep.
So yeah, it's we've seen how buy and burns work, but yeah, this is super cool because you have this secret burn in the X28. It's like
secret sauce.
Bro, that is the masala. That is the spice on top. That's the extra spice you throw in there. So yeah, this is super cool because it's a 50% burn on Titan X just to push everything through this convert stage. So yeah, think about what this could do to Titan X. I said at the start, what happens when we have a compounding beast on X28 that's built on X28 that forces all the economic energy from ETH and Titan X straight through this corridor of converting, which just destroys 50% of the supply. We're burning 0.3% per day right now, guys. I'm excited to see where that goes.
What if we're 3% a day?
Well, there we go.
Damn.
The whales better be watching this stream, man. Yeah. And one thing with converting into X28, one thing I really like about it is with buy and burn, like I said before, it only buys and burns what's in the LP. But with this conversion, it's burning user-owned supply. So this is not supply that's in their LP. This is supply people hold. And this is another element of burning on top of Titan X. The buy and burn is there, but then also you have this conversion into X28, which is going to burn 50% of that. So yeah, I mean, Jake said it, like the buy and burn is not even the biggest thing of burning Titan X right now.
Well, so, and one thing to really consider with this too, it's a small thing, but everything adds up. And this wasn't something I was like, this is the reason I want to do this, but this was an after realization of like, oh yeah. But what this is, normally if you were to go ETH, Titan X, X28, Torus, you have essentially 1, 2, 3 hops, right, that you have to do. And each time you're going to have slippage. So you're essentially each time getting hit by a little bit of slippage, a little bit of fees, and you're reducing the overall impact. Because you're going from Titan X to Torus through transforming, you're only either having 1 step or 2 steps possibly if there's ETH where you're going to have slippage instead of having 3. So by having this transform feature, it actually concentrates the economic energy more to Torus because of that, which is a small thing, but over time, 1% of $100 million is still $1 million, right?
That's big. I think I remember Jake saying this right at the start of his Titan X streams. He was saying, coming from his world of like business, one thing that he was really learned from that experience was taking any 1% of, like, making it as sealed and just clean, like you don't want all this 1% waste going here and there. Making it cleaner and just like getting all those little 1% adds up. And then that was something that we learned that he introduced when he was talking about Titan X, and we're seeing amazing builders using the same kind of methodology here. So yeah,
it was definitely inspired by that, for sure. And I mean, that was what I wanted to create, a selfish protocol. I didn't want to create something that, because here's the thing is like, as much as I want to help the ecosystem, in order to help the ecosystem, the user needs to win, because the user participating is where everything, the magic happens. If users don't participate, there's nothing. You could have the best system in the world, but if no one gets involved, they're not going to do anything for Titan X, not going to do anything for everything else. So by creating a very, very selfish protocol that rewards the users massively, you incentivize behavior, which then lifts everybody. Instead of trying to just help one particular protocol, you lift all ships by building something that only focuses on one.
I think we saw that on the massive Dragon X run. Like when Dragon X started running, everything started getting green candles, because at the end of the day, it's all connected to Titan. So
yep.
Yeah, that's a key point. And it's you might say it's a selfish protocol, but then it's actually helping everything.
What's best for the protocol is best for everybody.
Exactly. And that's what we get by building on Titan X. You help everything.
Exactly.
Cool. So that's the buy and burn. And then, oh yeah, one thing, what's the interval type? Like, is this going to be fully decentralized, or like how does that buy and burn function get called?
It will have one controllable parameter. The interval is going to be set. I believe it's going to be every 10 minutes. It'll be 5 or 10, but it'll be set in stone, not able to be moved. So you can rely on every 5 or 10 minutes that there will be an amount to be called. Now, of course, if the gas is atrocious, then that's just going to build up over time. So if no one calls it for 30 minutes, there's going to be 3 stacked up buys that are going to be in one, and the incentive is going to be high enough where people are going to want to click the button. But the only parameter that's going to be controllable is the amount. And the reason for this, I thought deeply about centralized versus decentralized. Where's the balance, and why would you even want to consider some centralization? And it comes down to, in a protocol's infancy, in my opinion, I watched so many protocols. I studied Hex tremendously. I watched all sorts of, like, watch Hedron, Icosa, PulseX, you watch Titan X, all these different ecosystems. And when there is a level of infancy that's there, you need some form of benevolent action that is able to guide the system just a little bit, right? And so by being able to adjust the amount, what this ensures is that there is no overspending or underspending, and this isn't saying that every 5 minutes the amount's going to be different to compensate, but there will be adjustments being made that can be renounced. This function can and will be renounced at some point, but it's just so that way, while things are maturing, the best outcome is achievable. And you don't have this situation where you're burning 30% of your buy and burn when nothing's happening, right? And also you're not running dry to the time now where 30% is like $5,000 a day by the time you need it.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so important. I mean, I have no problems with the centralized, more centralized, but I don't see any issues with them, because I do believe, that the actors behind them are benevolent. And I think, the way I look at it is, like when you're learning to ride a bike when you're young, like someone needs to kind of hold the bike for you, kind of push you a bit, guide you a bit, and then eventually they can let go and you can just cycle. Like that's the way I kind of see these things. Like the buy and burn being a bit controlled at the start with the amounts, it's just like it's kind of nudging the system, like giving it that push, and then when things really get rolling, it's just going to be rolled. The buy and burn amount will just be set the way it's set, and it's just going to be rolling.
Exactly. And it might take some serious time to get that there, because we don't know, what's going to happen in our ecosystem, wider crypto, and really what kind of adoption things are, or what kind of adoption is going to happen. And so, once the system reaches a level of maturity that seems sustainable, it's very likely that one key is going to be revoked. Because then it makes sense. It could just cruise control, and then the system's automatically reflexive. And when it's got small moves down, small moves up over time, and it's just kind of following its pathway, that's perfect. Then you can just have a sustainable system at that point. But growing the protocol to there is going to require some nudging, some adjusting to properly compensate for the journey of maturity that Torus is on.
Going to be on. And yeah, exactly. And like you said, this is not going to be something changed every 5 minutes or 10 minutes. If you look at Hyper buy and burn has been set like that for quite a long time. Pretty much maybe after the first month or so, or 2 months, it's just been set, at that rate. And things may adjust in the future, but I don't see any problem with that. I think sometimes a bit of human intelligence, because at the end of the day, right, it's not like it's not like the money in there can be stolen, right?
Exactly.
So it's like adding a bit of human intelligence behind the system can be a great way to keep the system moving fully, because with decentralized things, obviously you know, if you can't change anything, um, you know, situations and circumstances can change, market conditions can change. So I don't see anything wrong with some intelligent, benevolent person being behind it and you know, acting in the best interest for the protocol. So that's
Well,
the way I see that. Yeah.
And I can really appreciate that. One of the things that is special to Torus as well, that kind of, I don't want to say separates it, but like some protocols, even Titan X, you know, so there's some people who are like, oh, Titan X gets a bunch of Genesis gets Titan X, you know, and there's, in my opinion, it's not valid. You know, there is no concern there, but I've heard people's concerns of like, well, it's got the supply and, you know, it's got control of the buy and burn, and really couldn't it just spike the buy and burn and just start dumping Titan X? And, you know, fair enough as terms of a question, but obviously proof is in the pudding, and, you know, we're still cruising on as expected. But one of the things that separates Torus is that that scenario can never happen, because the Genesis address does not get Torus for any reason whatsoever. And so in order for it to want to dump, it would have to go and buy Torus to then dump it, which would be the weirdest decision making.
Yeah, that wouldn't make any sense.
No, I mean, it'd be neutral at that point. If anything, it'd be at a loss, because it'd pump the price and then push it back down. And then when you account for slippage, you're just at a loss.
Yeah,
that's like making the worst trade ever.
I know, it's just that'd be so stupid, man.
Yeah.
And to address that point as well, I feel like with from a, you know, Genesis perspective, it doesn't make sense to dump the protocol. Like, think about it, right? Genesis makes money off people making miners, and if you keep that system running smoothly forever, then you have a perpetual source of income from the Genesis. Why would you get rid of that? You know, it's like that question: would you rather have a million today or like 10 grand a month for the rest of your life? It's like, I would rather 10 grand a month for the rest of my life. You know, like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's kind of like that. Like, why would you destroy the whole system that destroys everything Genesis can make?
It makes no sense.
Yeah,
at all to me. I'm on the exact same page as you.
Yeah, cool. So we'll go to the bind build. So yeah, I think this is, yeah, this should be everything here. I hope that's pretty readable. Do you want to talk through that?
Yeah, so the buy and build, it acts very similar to the buy and burn, except because in order to build liquidity, in order to provide liquidity, you, especially in full range, right, you need 50% of the one side of the token in dollar value, and 50% of the other token in order to place both of those into a pair. And so to do this, basically 50%. So this is the same as a buy and burn. There's a call amount every 5 or 10 minutes, right? Let's say it's like $100 or $1,000 or $2,000, whatever it's going to be, right? So let's say it's $1,000 just because it's nice and easy to understand. If it's $1,000 call amount, all $1,000 is going to move into X28, right? Everything goes into X28. Then from there, 50% of that X28 buys Torus. So now you've got a perfectly even split of $500 in X28 and $500 in Torus, and then that is placed in liquidity. That's as simple as the buy and build is, really.
Yeah. Okay. So I just realized my my diagram was a bit wrong. Yeah. So guys, it's not going to use the Titan X to. Yeah. Why did I not realize that? It's not going to buy Titan Torus to Titan X because there's not going to be the LP there. Yeah. So it's going to get the economic energy in Titan X, convert all of it into X28, and then 50% of that X28 is going to buy up Torus, and then add into the LP. Full range.
Correct. And this is one of the things that I wanted to announce today, is that I was originally doing V2, but now I needed to make a decision that was best for the protocol, best for adoption, best for longevity. And I had really thought about, I wanted V2 originally because I didn't want whale games. I didn't want liquidity games to be played. But I also thought about, and again, Jake and I, and the same with Eric, have had many great conversations. And the more I thought about it, the more I bounced ideas around, the more I was like, I think I just need this to be V3 so it can go in farms. Because in V2, it can't go in farms. So it needed to be in V3. So in the white paper now, it will show that this LP is now going to be in a V3 liquidity pool, not a V2.
There we go, guys. That's actually really bullish because, having the ability to go in farms, and this is a protocol that I assume will have huge amounts of volume, you know?
Oh
So
yeah.
if you have huge amounts of volume, then you kind of earn your place in the farms, you know? So wow, that's super bullish. That's super bullish for the X28 Titan X farm, by the way. I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah. It's
Yeah,
going to be
that's
great
bullish.
for that.
Mm.
There's going to be so much volume like this. That's a really good point, actually. Yeah, the volume that Torus is going to create within farms is going to be fantastic.
It's gonna be insane. Like pushing all that volume through X28. I mean, I've lost the numbers now in my head, but it's a lot of economic energy, and that gives the buy and burn on X28 tons of powder. So if that starts to really kick off, then wow, a lot of Tink is gonna get burned, guys.
Oh yeah. Well, and think about this too. You actually have two ways with X28. You have the one way that's transforming, and then you have the buy and burn that's going to be going this way, right? To buy Torus or to go towards X28. And then you have the compounding when that's going off. You've got a two-way economic frenzy going on that's just going to go spinning the volume absolutely berserk within that X28 and Titan X farm.
Yeah. Wow. Tink is such a great the farms is such an amazing element to this ecosystem.
Yep.
It's just so good. The farms on this system are just insane. I mean, having like a incentive token that's not just perpetual dump that has buy pressure programmed and it's kind of tracks the trading volume of the entire ecosystem. It's just insane.
It is. I mean, and kudos to Eric and his team for coming up with it. I can't remember if Jake was involved or not, but for all the guys that built that, like it's an incredible system. They really redefined the gold standard for farming, I think.
Yeah, like I think people will take what they've done and you'll see little farms popping up on other places. But everyone who sees those farms, they know it started here.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, that's cool. So that's basically super bullish for, that's super bullish for farms. That changed to V3. So anyone here who is, wants a good amount of Tink position, or they're in the farms owning Tink, that's so bullish. Everyone owning Tink right now, they got to be happy, man. Everyone's going to be smiling at home who's owning Tink right now.
100%. Well, and what's cool about this too is it allows two demographics to play ball, because when the farms happen, right, the liquidity is going to go just expand massively, right, which provides
That's
more
true,
stability.
yeah.
But what we haven't really got into is the fact that in order to have an ROI of creating and staking that is higher or lower than one another, you need a point of fair value, like a median point, right, where that price flips over and under in order to give the ROIs change. And so because Torus per 100 power that you're creating with declines per day, right, there's a price of Torus, that's that median point, that continues to slowly rise over time. And so basically for those who want to do concentrated liquidity, this is a gold mine, because essentially they could put a fairly narrow band over what they calculate to be maybe 20% or 30% over what that range is going to be over time, right? And they can just let it sit there, and then it's just going to oscillate within that range, especially if there's tons of liquidity, right? And it will just slowly move up. And when it gets to a point where they need to move, they can just move the range again. And in the meantime, the overall the foundational liquidity is also going to grow as that moves up and as Titan X and X28 move up. So it's like there is just so much that can be done using V3 that makes the users win over and over and over and over again, no matter what they want to do. And the other thing to consider here too is the more people that are farming, the less sell pressure that there is, which means the buy and burn can actually rocket and do things that it couldn't previously do, because now their supply doesn't need to deal with.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that targets two levels of the liquidity in the farming there. It targets people who farm in Titan farms, and also those kind of people who do concentrated liquidity. I can see a lot of Torus being off the market here. A lot of Torus, because think about it, if you own Torus, there's three places you can put it: stake and earn. Okay, so you're still earning. Farm, builds LP, makes the buy and burn more efficient, locks away supply temporarily. You earn Tink, and the buy pressure on Tink could be even more crazy. And then you can also do concentrated liquidity. So those guys in the Titans of LP will be they'll be liking this. They'll be very happy with this, because
I was thinking about them.
Yeah, they're gonna take this, man. They're gonna run with it.
Sick. I love it. I hope so.
Yeah. So you're kind of you're kind of benefiting a huge user base, because there's people that just want to play the protocol.
Mhm.
Then there's going to be people who want to do farm, and there's going to be people who do the concentrated LP. So you're kind of hitting, you're ticking every box.
Yeah, and that was kind of what came down to the decision making. The more I thought about it, I was like, man, I feel like by going V2, yes, I get what I want, but it is taking away an aspect of usability and profitability for a certain set of users, or likelihood of even playing ball in liquidity games that they might have played if there was the V3 pool. So it kind of, as much as I had to check my ego and just be like, you know what, I just got to make the decision that's the best one, not the one that my ego loves the most. So V3, here we are.
Yeah, V3, that's so bullish, man. That's such a good little. I'm gonna have to put a tweet out. Tweet out announcement. Cool. So buy and build, and then we've got the LP pool set up. So
and now this is where there's two changes that might change the game for the way people are thinking about this. We'll just start through this, but I'll just plant that seed there, and we'll get to the changes.
Guys,
shortly.
there's more juice. There's more juice coming.
Yep.
So I think with the LP, you're gonna have obviously the input tokens of Titan X and ETH.
Yep.
So you're going to use both of these. This is interesting that you're using them both in different LP pools. That's really cool. Yeah.
It gives, ETH gives flexibility that you can't do with Titan X, because I don't want to sell Titan X. Why would I want to hurt the ecosystem? I'm trying to improve and help, It's like, so yeah, ETH was like a necessary aspect that was able to give flexibility that, it just didn't have a Titan X. So it was very, very cool to be able to utilize that.
That's so cool. Yeah. And we're going to get to that in a second. There's a lot of, I would say, mystery around this bit here.
It's going to get even more mysterious in a moment.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Now I'm really excited. So the way I understand this is the first 60 grand, $60,000 of Titan X that enters the protocol will transform into X28. And then you're going to have a one-time mint of Torus. I believe this will be roughly the same amount economically. That goes into the LP. Okay, so the main LP, if those haven't caught it yet, will be X28 Torus.
Yep.
So that's going to be that. And we now know that's a V3 Uniswap V3 pool. And then
one thing I'll add to that is it's actually, so change the amount down from 60K. Now it'll be the first 20K. The reason for this, it sounds like it's scary and oh my God, you're only putting 20K in. Remember, there's a phase one where 28% of all the economic energy that comes into the system goes into the buy and build. It's just the reason why this was chosen was, again, feedback from Jake and all the lessons and the wisdom that he's gained over the last while. And what he told me effectively was, look, if you don't get an LP built in the first day, someone will, and it will ruin things very, very quickly. And so you need to just get something built. And so 20K is like a fair balance, because we were talking about less, and I didn't want to go too low, but this feels like a balanced, and this will be the same for both sides. So instead of it being 60K, it'll be 20K for both sides, which allows immediacy and you don't have to worry about things going awry if worst case the right amount of economic energy didn't come in.
Okay. And so this means that the ratio, I believe, between Torus and X28 will be 1-to-1 at the start.
No.
Okay.
So this is something that I didn't put in the white paper, which is good to clear up. Now I'm waiting for closer to the final date of when the build is going to be done, because to release the numbers of Titan X, that will be in its ratio to Torus. Basically, day one will be 1,000 Torus that you'll get for your Titan X. Now, I've been throwing around numbers, and I'll let you guys do the math as to what this would equal out to. But I like somewhere between, $1, $1.75 for Torus. So we'll see what that equals to Titan X at the time, but you can expect somewhere around that will likely be, depending on all things, but that's the ballpark I have right now.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense to have the ratio obviously kind of track the amount you get in mining.
Right.
Because obviously if the ratio is super, like if the ratio is like a 1-to-1, I just realized then the mining probably wouldn't yield much. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because then the price of Torus would be so low, and then you only get like 1,000. Let's say you only get like 1,000 Torus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you'd basically be earning like a quarter of a Torus in the pool if people were doing a 1-to-1. That'd be crazy.
Yeah, that makes sense. That just clicked in my head when you were talking. I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I wanted it to be inverted unit bias. So we're used to like billions and billions and billions of tokens. I want it to be like, if you have 100,000 tokens, you're doing real well. You know,
that's gonna be funny when because we're so in this ecosystem with like billions and trillions and stuff. Yeah. When you tell people like, oh, I have like, let's say your family, you're like, I've got 20 billion of this, and then you're gonna say to Torus, how much Torus you got? Oh, about 20,000.
Yeah, exactly.
People are gonna be like, wait, what happened? 20,000?
100%. Two different worlds.
Yeah, it's just the unit cost. Cool. And then
100%.
with ETH, so I need to change this to 20. This is wrong, actually. I might just delete that. Okay, so with the ETH side, and this is great because we're not selling down Titan X, it's going to do something very interesting. It's going to buy wrapped pulse.
And I'm actually going to correct you right now.
Okay,
that is the big change that's happened here, and it's still gonna get you all hot and bothered, but it's going to be a different ticker. So I'm going to get you to go in and click on the ticker. And I'm going to get you to delete WPLS. I'm going to spell it out for you.
Go on.
Type in PLSX.
PLS. Bang. Wow. Wow. Buy Pulse X, man. Come on. Everyone who... You know what? I was selling CRYPTOGRFX before we went live. That I started watching him during his Pulse X days. And this is it, man. We're back here. We're back at Pulse X. There we go.
Full circle, man. Using everything that I've ever learned, essentially.
Wow. So anyone from the RH ecosystem that might not like Titan X stuff, we have people supporting your ecosystem tokens. There we go. Build bridges, man. This is cool. This is great. Exactly.
That's my vision.
Okay, so it's gonna buy Pulse X. That's so interesting. Obviously, it's gonna buy that on. Is it gonna bridge the ETH first?
It's going to essentially it's both of these actions are going to be done by liquidity wallet. So the liquidity wallet's going to need to buy like a little bit of pulse, bridge the ETH over, bridge the wrap pulse over to make sure it can pay for gas. And then it will buy and bridge the Torus over as well. And then it's going to buy up Pulse X and then pair it with Torus in the Pulse X V2 pool.
Wow.
Because that way it's also burning Pulse X via the volume.
Yeah. There we go. So for those who don't know about Pulse X has a unique feature. This was almost the birth of PLSX. Yeah, this is almost the birth of the buy and burn stuff. Pulse X is a trading platform on Pulse Chain. It's like Uniswap on Pulse Chain. And for every trade that happens, a small percent of that trade goes into buying and burning Pulse X. So by having a pool on Pulse X directly, linked to Pulse X by liquidity, you're taking Pulse X out of the supply, and you're also adding, with volume, more buy pressure.
Yep, because our bots need to go in and adjust the prices, and it's small, but that will add up. That's a tiny thing, that's and liquidity bonding is another great thing. How it's going to affect Torus. So, let's say PLSX pumps, liquidity bonding is going to want to pull up Torus, and if Torus is getting pulled up, well, then Titan X is getting pulled up. So that's something to consider. But that's not the main reasons that was chosen. There are future reasons that you will see that are the real reason why PLSX was chosen, which I will not disclose now.
Wow. So there is some possibly future development happening here. This is what I was saying. This has got so much mystery here, man. I mean, I'm excited to see what happens here. And one other interesting thing about this is we're seeing an interesting scenario play out between the Pulse Chain and Titan X world, where it seems that big wallets are, let's say, Pulse Chain pumps and Titan X down. They take their Pulse Chain, they bridge it, they sell it and bridge it out to ETH, and then they move it into into Titan X. We've kind of seen a few wallets playing this game, which shows that we have a very bonded community already. But this is cool because if people wanted to do that, they can sell their Pulse X directly into Torus and then bridge the Torus back to ETH.
Yeah.
And then they play that game. And they have an asset that is already got all these crazy buy and burns, and yeah,
100%.
that's super cool. How do you think the arbing works between the chains?
It's going to be slower. There'll probably be some discrepancies. And I mean, because the buy and build is not routing to obviously Pulse Chain, the bonding's not really going to do a whole lot, not in this stage. There's just not going to be liquidity. It's like, it's like putting a feather on one end of a scale that already has a brick on the other side. It's, you're not going to do anything.
Okay.
So it's going to be very, very small. I would say this is probably more like a setup than anything else.
This is it. Yeah. So this is basically setting the ground for more to come.
You could probably interpret it like that. Yeah.
Well, that's how I'm seeing it, bro. Wow. Okay. So, and look, for those who follow CryptoGrFX and they watch his show, which is an amazing show, by the way, with Crypto Kindness.
Thank you.
I really enjoy that. They'll know that Mr. CryptoGrFX is big in PTGC and he likes his LP webs. So perhaps more question mark speculation there, with LP webs. I won't push you too much on it, but yeah, I'm speculating now. I'm not going to say anything. There we go. That's it.
Nope, that's perfect. This is what I want. I want there to be some mystery. I want there to be some, like, you can see what might be coming. You can see the possibilities, and yeah, just get people excited, because I do believe they have every reason to be.
Yeah, that's it. Wow, there we go. And these are two amazing ecosystems, and I think it's great to build bridges, between PulseX, Pulse Chain, and TitanX, and then TitanX ecosystem. So I like this. I like that it's building that bridge. I remember when you put the first video out for the white paper, you're like, I know a lot of Pulse Chain people watch me. That's what you said, and you were like, look, guys, don't worry, I'm not abandoning you. We're gonna build something together, So yeah, this was that nugget in the white paper that when I found it, I was like, phew.
Right.
And
yeah, it's I see a lot of people overlooking it, but really this is like one of the most most mysterious and coolest aspects of it, really.
I think having a level of mystery itself is bullish. So it adds more speculation into already a highly speculative asset class. So yeah, I like to see that. It's going to keep people thinking. People might want to hold on to Torus because they're like, there's something coming. And then Pulse Chain people might want to get some Torus because they think there's something coming. There's so much here, right? So yeah, if I'm a Pulse, sorry.
No, you go ahead. Please finish your thought. I don't want to.
I was just gonna say, if I'm a Pulse Chain, I'm probably thinking, and about TitanX, in TitanX ecosystem, you're probably thinking you might want to get a bunch of Torus because there might be a next another play coming up, So I'm just gonna put that out there. Yeah,
it's possible. I would say, just play the game as how it looks now, and play the games that you want to play. And if I wouldn't speculate too much on and make actions based on what you don't actually know for sure. Because if something was to come, it might be different than you think. And if you're playing a game that is in your head, it's probably not the game that's in my head.
There you go. You heard it from the man himself, guys. You heard it from the man himself. Cool. I think that actually wraps up everything here. This is what we've gone through. We've gone through a lot today.
Yeah. You killed it on these diagrams. Like, they're so nice to visualize. Like, wow.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's so funny because it is so simple from when you initially look at it, but then look, guys, we've spent an hour 48 going through all this.
And we haven't talked about so much. We haven't talked about how the profitability, like this question that Cinematic Euphoria asks, is like a rabbit hole of conversation that we could go down still.
I know, yeah. There's so much to ask there. In fact, I might bring up some of those questions now.
Sure.
And just see, so we can work through them. I think I found about 4. So Cinematic Euphoria's first question is, when is it live?
So it will be live in Q1 2025, the earliest date possible. So as of last couple of days or so, the devs are finally digging into the white paper and starting to get the ball rolling. So the build process is basically now underway, and I hope, like I said, to be out as soon as possible. However, if it takes to the end of January into February, then so be it, because this needs to be perfect. You get one shot at making a protocol like this. You get one shot with your reputation, your credibility. And so I'm not going to put out anything that's subpar. It's going to be tested ad nauseum, and it is going to be audited twice. It is going to be double, triple, quadruple checked in every possible manner. And then it will be released, whether that's a month later than I personally anticipated or on schedule. But it just I need to have the breathing room so that way it can be perfect without letting people down. So the Q1 is a nice broad stroke that still is going to be accurate.
Nice. Q1, guys, and that might sound far for some people. That's not far.
Yeah, you're going to blink twice and it's going to be here. I'm telling you right now.
Cool. So that's the first one, and we've got another one. This is actually quite an important question that I might have missed on the diagrams. If people end their stakes early, do the people still staking earn a higher ROI?
So this is a great. I love this question. So you're a staker. You end your stake. Your shares, when you end your stake, are removed from the pool, meaning the pool hasn't changed, but because you have removed your shares, the pool's ROI goes up for everybody. Now, here's the interesting thing. If you were to leave and never come back, you would effectively be giving that ROI to others, right? And what you've earned to that day would get redistributed into the pool. But if you were to end your stake and then go back in on the same day as a creator, you're giving up your supply, but then you're going in and you're earning a little bit of what you gave up because you're going back in the pool, and you're going to have shares in the pool for when the next day ticks over, right? So day ticks over, you earned on that day, you're ending this day. The next day is over here, right? If you end here and then recreate before the next day ticks over, you're technically earning some of the supply you gave up. But yes, if you abandon ship, the ROI for everyone would go up.
Wow, that's something I didn't see. That's true. Like if you were to recompound and you get more Torus, then you get more shares if it's over the same amount of days. Wow, I didn't even see that. I didn't even see that point. Yeah, you get more shares, so you're earning more. It's not. Yeah, I didn't even consider that. That's a great question. Thank you, AP.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Cool. Let's get to the next one. So I think you mentioned this one already.
Yeah, I can answer it. So, the buy and burn for Torus is what Zen never had, and it allows a level of support that Zen was not possible in Zen. You have 88% of all the value that's injected into the system is used to basically buy up the token itself. And 92% of the economic energy technically supports it because it's staying in Titan X, or if it's ETH and it's coming into Titan X, it's pushing up everything, including Titan X, which is support nonetheless. So 88% direct into Torus, 92% is supporting it regardless.
Yeah, guys, don't forget this is on top of Titan X. Like, you have economic energy that moves Torus, but then we have a bunch of economic energy that also moves Titan X, including Torus. So, yeah, what can happen? Because if Titan X goes on a run, yeah, the profitability on Torus creating Torus could be in my local language, it could be a mad one. That's what we say. So,
I love it.
it could be crazy. Yeah, that's such a good point to raise. And this is something that was introduced through Titan X, right? Having that programmed buy pressure. Yep. And then another question. So Cinematic Euphoria, thank you for your support. You've been asking lots of questions.
That was great.
What's your rough estimate of what the ROI will be for staking?
Here's the thing. It totally depends. Here's what I can say for sure about the ROI of staking. It's going to be more stable than creating. So when creating is more favorable, it's going to be higher, right? But you have to think about the staking ROI is essentially like your cost basis, which is Torus, the fee, and then what you're going to earn on top of it. But because you're not, it's really taking into consideration your total economic energy in the beginning, and you're earning, it's the way it works is going to be more stable. It's not going to be quite as volatile. It will when I guess, yeah, it's the only way I could really say it is staking will be more stable, but the way the ROI is determined is based on price, right? Because let's say 100,000 tokens on day one are going to the Torus pool. If those are worth a penny, that's like $100, right? I mean, or it might be $1,000. I don't know. But either way, it's just, there's nothing in the pool, right? So ROI is going to be really low. And also, if you got 100,000 tokens at a penny each and you've got 100,000 people in the pool, well, then your ROI is like chump change. It's nothing, right? There's no ROI. But if the price is higher, right, then you get into the situation where if there is more people in the pool, the ROI shrinks. If there is less people in the pool, the ROI expands. And this is going to be one of the coolest aspects of how it's going to create continued participation, right? Because when you go into the pool, you dilute others in order to do so. You're adding shares to the total pool. But let's say day 88 comes around. Let's paint this scenario, right? Let's say the majority of people that come into the protocol all go in for 88 days, right? On day 88, when all of their creations are finished, their shares get automatically removed. So what does that do to the ROI? It shoots it back up to as if they aren't there. And so what you could see, like on day one, the first person that comes in the pool is probably going to see like over 1,000,000% ROI just because there's no shares in the pool. Now that's not going to be true, but because it looks into the future based on all the shares in the pool, it's going to show some insane ROIs. So when people come out on day 88, that ROI is going to spike and people are going to be like, oh God, I got to get back in, which brings more economic energy back into the system. So it kind of is always casting out a line with bait on it every time you leave. It's like, oh, you don't want to fish anymore? Okay. Anybody else? Look how much fish there is to fish with here or fish for here. Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's the more deep dive of how reflexive the pool itself is. And what's really cool is depending on the starting price, in order to bring the pool down in the first 88 days to only a 6% ROI, you need nearly $1 billion coming in order to bring it all the way down to 6%. So this means that the room for ROI is quite high. And what that also allows for is for maturity over time to take place and allows for a more mature market to come in while still having high adoption rates.
Mm-hmm. There's so much to the rewards pool and this whole extra element you've added. You know, like the more I'm thinking of it, the more I'm like realizing more things, right? Like if you look at, you know, creating and staking, they're both competing for shares, but the people who create, they give so much economic support to the system. So, you know, everyone who creates are going to give huge amounts of economic support to the system, which pushes it up. And then people who stake are locking their already created or bought supply. And then they're also providing economic energy to the system, that 5% fee. So this like competing over this earn pool, I feel will be like one of the biggest driving factors that pushes the system.
100%.
Yeah.
That's bang on.
Because like you said, after 88 days, everyone's shares gets removed. This is going to look, the ROI will go insane. And then people will want that. People want a slice of it. So they'll either compound, create more, or they'll stake. And then both actions benefit. Yeah, both actions benefit the system.
100%. It's going to be really cool to see how it plays out. Because I mean, I just keep coming back to that. You know, even if someone was like, I don't know if I want to go back in, they're going to see the ROI go skyrocketing again. And they're like, wait, no, I changed my mind. So it's kind of forcing, you know, I don't want to use the word forcing FOMO because I don't want anyone to FOMO in anything, but it is putting not just a carrot, but like it's dangling a ton of carrots in icing, sugar, whatever you want to put to make it, I don't know, better. But essentially it's forcing people to be like, I can't ignore this carrot.
Yeah. It's kind of like how the auction systems pull people in. Because at the end of the day, if there's a ROI to make at the end of the auction, then people will jump in. I kind of see it like that.
It's totally inspired by that. You know, I learned from everything. And the one thing I didn't, so the reason there's creating tokens and earning tokens. This is really important to understand. When you just earn, right, there is you're basing the ROI completely on these tokens, and that's it. So the pool essentially could get diluted much more, but from an ROI standpoint. But when you create tokens up front, which means people have a base value they're starting with, and that can have its own ROI, and then you're earning on top of it, essentially this creates a situation where there is more ROI to be had, and it can allow for more adoption over time, and it creates an auction-like protocol or an auction-like system that never ends and can handle so many participants. Like I said, at the starting prices, like $1 billion can come in and 6% ROI would still be had for everybody. That's because of the system. But if you take that away, you completely shoot it in the foot.
And what happens when $1 billion comes in? Everyone's, the whole system just goes nuts.
Well, yeah, the buy and burn can do things. The buy and build can do things that's never been seen before.
Wow.
It can just, and this, again, this is the really important thing to understand here, is that because there's this delay, right? If you look at a buy and burn from the standpoint of what is it philosophically, I don't think we've heard much of this conversation, but this is the truth here.
Okay.
Right? Like what backs Titan X for value, what gives Titan X value is what ETH is there, what ETH supports it. Because if Titan X is just floating around and it's not paired with ETH, right? It intrinsically doesn't have value other than, ratio wise to whatever's created on top of it. So the buy and burn is kind of like, it's kind of like, when Richard Hart first said this for Hex, it was a little bit of a controversial thing. And people were like, wait, what do you mean virtual lending? Which Hex staking, essentially virtual lending. The stakers are lending value to the price chart, and those who don't stake and buy up the price are then lending value back to the stakers eventually, to basically be able to take advantage of their ROI, right? So the buy and burn is similar, right? It's people come in, they give what already has value, ETH or Titan X, right, to the system. That value is locked in the buy and burn. And that value then is like lent, right? Because if the buy and burn didn't spend anything, it didn't use anything, the price would just tank, right? And the value of everyone's bags would tank with it. So the buy and burn is acting kind of like virtual lending, if you will, where it takes economic energy that comes in terms of value and it lends it to the buy and burn, and it utilizes it to create a scenario where more people give their value into the system, which creates a little bit of asymmetry, because this is where leverage can even be profitable in the first place. Like if you just create a one-to-one system, there's no value exchange, there's no point, right? In order for you to want to exchange one form of value for another, there needs to be asymmetry, right? You need to have higher value on the side you're going into and a little bit lower, right? So that there's a gain to be had. So what the buy and burn is actually doing is you're virtually lending value in form of Ether Titan X to the buy and burn, which then allows it to utilize that ETH to create more economic energy that it can then work with and use over time, which I haven't really heard anyone discuss before, but this is really how it operates on a fundamental level. And if it can operate properly at a very mature level, then it's constantly being given value that it can re-inject into the chart to allow users to win over and over and over and over again. But it needs that value lent to it in order for value to be removed from the system. You can't create value out of thin air.
Wow, that's a really unique way of putting it. It's like a lending, it's like a lending leverage thing, right? Like you lend it the value, and then it kind of creates that asymmetry, which kind of creates like a leverage on the token, which then forces more people to give it value. It forces more people to give the buy and burn more value.
Well, and yeah. Go ahead if you want to finish that thought.
Just to quickly finish, and we saw how this played out at the beginning of Titan X, how crazy, just how crazy everything was. If people were around back then, like mining ROI was like absolutely insane. Like it was just a crazy time. But yeah,
it really was, and the one thing though, like if you're thinking about most protocols and the problem is, when the protocol or a protocol goes to a point where this buy and burn, right, that it's been lent value, cannot create its own revenue of value coming in to then utilize to put back in the price chart, then you get into a system where people just sell, and you have to go in. The system is forced to go into self-preservation mode, where it's focused on supply, right? It has to wait for opportune times to delete supply, remove supply from hands, so that the demand and the supply reach a crossover point now where the price chart wants to go up. And then eventually returns to that point where it can bring in the value back into the system. But this is the beauty of Torus, is when that crossover point happens, when people would normally just sell and get out or panic, or then the system has to go over to survival mode, people stake, which locks up the tokens and reduces sell pressure. So all that economic energy that would normally be trying to eat up supply, it can focus on bringing that ROI back up to bring in more economic energy, which helps the system, rewards the users, and so on. And so this is the first time where you have all of these different elements kind of adding up, where there isn't a survive or die situation, and there isn't a panic situation, so to speak. Every time people would want to panic, they can do something about it. And when they do something about it, they help the system to bring itself back up to its optimal state.
Yeah, exactly. And from a staking perspective, with the ROI, from just a Torus perspective, it's always going to be positive. Like if you stake your Torus, you're always going to earn more Torus.
Yep.
So whatever the price chart is, if you really believe in the protocol, you want to build your position when creating is low, then you have that opportunity. You always have the opportunity by staking.
100%.
Yeah, there's so much. We can speak so much about all of this stuff. One element that I actually wanted to briefly mention about buy and burn, and this was one of the elements that I saw on Titan X that made me fall in love with the protocol, is that when we all got introduced to buy and burn, especially the guys on the Pulse X side of things, it was like an eye opener, and we saw how Pulse X kind of traps economic energy through trading and then pushes it into buy and burn. And when this was coming out, a lot of people did a lot of maths on this stuff, and they were like, well, if we get $1 billion of trading volume, then that's equivalent to like something like 600 grand of straight buy and burn. And one of the things I love about Titan X is you need way less economic energy to get the same amount of economic buyer pressure, right? In the sense that I think with Titan X, it's something like $1 million of mining will create something like 600K of programmable buy and burn.
It's 1,000 times more than what Pulse X has.
Exactly. So think about the efficiency. It's 1,000x more efficient at removing supply. Like, that's crazy. And then with Torus, it's got that efficiency even from day one, from phase one, but phase two, that efficiency goes even higher because it's like 84%. So you would need $1 million of creating would make $840,000 of straight buy and burn pressure. Yeah,
basically 1,400 times more efficient than Pulse X.
Like this ecosystem takes those tokenomics and just puts them on absolute steroids.
Oh yeah, I love it. It is so cool. Like, seriously, I kind of can't believe we're here, as a community and as just like a DeFi community. Because when I first got into Hex, and when you and I were like digging into Pulse X and going to Pulse Chain and all that, it was like, whoa, like they were at the pinnacle, man. And then now we're here, we're like, yo, no, this is insane. Because we thought that was nuts, and it still is for its time, but like we're on a whole nother level now.
That's what happened. Like that's what happens with any ecosystem in any industry ever. You always have an initial idea, and then that idea slowly gets adapted and made better and better. I'm sure if you look at the first car, you look at the first rocket engine, you look at the first, I don't even know, microscope or something, they all go through substantial improvements. And yeah, it's just so cool to be at the front of it and to see all of it,
Seriously.
So,
we have like the perfect ecosystem. This is something that I want those who don't necessarily get the Titan X ecosystem really understand, is how when you have a supportive community that says, yes, innovate, create, do your best, but it has to pass a certain standard. Look at what can be bred. Look at what comes out of it. Look at all the protocols. Like you've got Flare from Smooth and Crypto that's about to come out. You got Stacks. You got Matrix that just came out. You got Phoenix. You have nearly 30 protocols that are going to be launched in like 18 months, on less than 18 months on Titan X. And then you still have Torus coming. You still have Ouroboros' USDX. You still have all these protocols and many, many, many more that are still coming that are brilliant. I mean, and the innovation it's not just like people creating meme coins and just, launching tokens, and like our meme coins have meme fi. They're decentralized. They are fair launch. All our utility tokens are innovative, doing things that have never been done before. And this is something that I wish other communities would really understand, is how much can come from a supportive environment like this with standards.
Mm-hmm. And it's such a big thing because if you think about it, like any community can do it. It's just a mindset 100%. Shift.
Yep.
It's just a mindset shift, like building protocols that will support the core protocol everyone loves, and then those protocols are cool, and then there's more coming out that support them. It's like, it's a mindset shift.
100%. You couldn't have said it any more perfect and any more simply.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how I see it. So, okay, really quickly, that Dragon X I called it the Dragon X FUD. Why couldn't that happen on Torus? What's the reason? Yep.
So this is like one of the most important things that I want people to understand when it comes to the system for their protection of using the system. If you are to only stake ever, or you're to only create ever, you are essentially going to continuously have consequences and loss. Because if you are only staking when you shouldn't be, you should be creating, you're essentially paying more than you need to, and you're going to have an economic loss. If you create when you should be staking, you're also going to have an economic loss, because you're basically overpaying for what you could buy in the market for a fraction, right? And so what happens is, and I created a model and I put this on X that I think some people have seen, and I think my battery just died, so I'm going to stop the camera.
That's okay.
But effectively, what happens is, and this is important for people to understand why you don't want to just create or you don't want to just stake. You want to utilize both doors of the system to make sure that you're actually maximizing Torus. So if a Dragon X type protocol was to come in and just stake, for the first few cycles, there's a bunch of assumptions you could make, but effectively what would happen is, because the amount of Torus that you can create for the same amount of economic energy over time decreases, that means that the costs in staking also increase, right? This is a big thing to understand here, because it takes the same amount of Titan X to generate less tokens, right? It costs more in protocol fees to stake the same amount of tokens over time. So what ends up happening is a protocol like Dragon X would try to come in, and we have to assume that there's going to be some form of extraction that they're going to have, where they are taking tokens from the Torus system to leverage and put into their own system, right? Let's say it's 30, 40%, 20%, whatever, it doesn't matter. Because they're taking out 20 or 30% at a time, each time they want to take tokens out and restake, they would have to take 20 or 30% of their tokens out. Then they would have to pay an increasing fee each time in order to do so. And effectively what this would do is it would create a cannibalized state where essentially this Dragon X protocol would be selling more Torus than it's earning continuously, and it would lose all its tokens. And the great thing is, if you want to build it, go ahead, because what's going to happen is you're going to take 20 or 30%, you're going to put it in your protocol, but what's going to happen is you're going to take pretty much all that economic energy and you're just going to eventually feed it into the buy and burn. That's all you're doing. So do it if you want, but you're going to make a poor decision for your protocol, and it's just going to come back for the users of Torus. It's designed like that. You shouldn't be doing just staking or just creating. It needs to be dynamic. You need to go to either side.
Yeah, this is definitely a protocol which is, you're going to have to adapt if you're in the protocol with each, time you're in, to see if it's better to create or stake. And you have to make that decision, constantly when you're interacting with it.
100%. And like down the road, like if you think about this into the future, this prevents an early adopter, someone who has like 100,000 tokens. Let's say someone gets in and they get like, because over 10, 20 years, actually, I think out to 20 years, there should be about 130 million tokens that are minted through the Torus pool specifically. And so if you think about in time, what happens, so let's say someone gets in early and they get 1 million tokens, right? But then let's say in 10 years, like someone's only creating 50 tokens for, 100 power, right? If someone has 1 million tokens, that would be just like game over. It just take over the pool because no one's going to have that amount except for the early adopters. So what that means is effectively someone has to essentially figure out, okay, based on those creation costs, how much would it cost based on 50 tokens can only be created at 100 power? How much would it cost to stake 1 million tokens? And it'd probably take you the majority of your bag to do so, which on one level, it's like, well, that's stupid. And the other, and you know what? It's one of those systems where you can't game it. It's fair. Mm-hmm. If you want to put in economic energy, you got to pay to play. And it sucks if you get too big in that sense. But you know what? The price of Torus at that point, if you have 1 million tokens that have gone up the degree that Torus will go up with it being paired to Titan X28, you have liquidity, you have farming, you have way easier moves that you can make without selling your bag or doing fancy maneuvers, right? That doesn't impact the price. And this gives the person that wants to make an ROI, a better chance on average of making an ROI while, still making it fair for everyone. And it's it's a trade-off, but this is why V3 was chosen. This is why there are other decisions that you will see that will come in the future. And it will work out so that there are games to be played for everybody, no matter what size you are.
Wow, that's such a bullish way to put it. I didn't even think about it to that extreme, right? If someone had 1 million tokens, if they were to stake it like way out in the future when you can barely create much Torus, they're going to be paying such a ridiculous amount to make that same amount now to get those shares. It just doesn't make any sense, right? To stake like 1 million, right? So it means that the stake pool, it basically means the earn pool is always going to be competitive between the creators and the stakers.
Exactly. And that's why it was designed, so that way it can be fair for all of time.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is fair crypto taken to its maximum. That's about as fair crypto as you can get. Yeah.
What's going to be really cool though? I mean, like all things, if Torus does exactly as what we're thinking it does and exactly how it's designed, I'm curious as to what gets built afterwards and where people take this, because Bitcoin created Hex, created Titan X, created Torus. And if Torus is, you can consider it possibly as like a next gen version of that evolution, then what comes after Torus? Like, I can't even think about how well something like that would be designed, but I'm excited to see it because everything gets changed and made for the better, remixed.
Bro, this Torus is like DeFi. If Titan X is DeFi 3.0, Torus is 4.0. What does 5.0 look like, man?
Oh my God, there's like AI stuff going on. There's got to be some crazy stuff.
Bro, like, yeah, exactly. That would be crazy. I mean, yeah, such a great time to be. I think we've been through so much there. We've done such a great stream. Like it's gone on for a very nice amount of time there. So I'm gonna start to wrap it up here.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone in the comments for their support. Like, we've had such great support today. We've had Utor, we've had Keto, Smoothing Crypto. Like, it's great to see all the guys here. Yeah, it's great to have you supporting me, and I'm really grateful that these guys are tuning in.
Yeah, guys, real quick, I'm going to interrupt you and just say, guys, go smash the subscribe on Jukes channel. Go make sure you're following him on X. Give him your support. This has been such a great stream. The work that goes into organizing everything, like, this is really detailed. I really appreciate it. I'm sure you guys who are watching really appreciate it. So share the love.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's just amazing the support this community gives. So I'm grateful to everyone. Grateful to CRYPTOGRFX for actually coming onto the platform. And I think I have a question here from Utor about the diagrams. Do I post them anywhere? I posted the E280 diagram on my X feed, and I broke it down. So maybe expect something similar to that. But that's a really good question. I might consider making these diagrams publicly available for people so that anyone can go in and have a visual look at the whole system. So that's a great question, Uto. I might consider that and consider putting them out somewhere. So yeah, thank you for that question.
That'd be really cool. I mean, totally up to you and no pressure to do so, but man, that would be awesome to have that out there.
Yeah, I think that'll be something that I'm definitely gonna consider now. Yeah, I think we're at the end of it. So yeah, I have no more words. I think this has been absolutely amazing. This is almost super real for me. I used to watch CryptoGrafx, right at the start. So now speaking to him here is insane. And also all the support from everyone. Thank you so much. We hit 144 live viewers, so I'm very grateful. And yeah, guys, have a good rest of your day. Everyone's in different parts of the world. We're all on different time zones. So whether you're going to sleep or whether it's early in the morning for you or it's, just the afternoon, wherever you are, have a great day. And I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, Jukes. Thanks, guys.